This is the Twinkie situation I was telling you about. I'm Anthony.
I'm David.
I'm Kirby.
I'm Katie.
And I'm Jim.
Welcome to issue number 141 of the Crimson Cowl Comic Club podcast. Each and every week we meet here at the shop, and when I say shop, I mean the internet shop, to talk about comics. Wow, slipped into old habits there. We talk about comics on this podcast. We have several different segments. In the first one, we are doing a club discussion. It'll be the final issue on a wrap-up for Ghostbusters Year 1, issue number 4. Then we will do a weekly reviews. We'll talk about comics new and old. And then we have a letters page question, which will be, if you could adapt a comic book series or story arc into an audiobook, what would it be, and who would voice a few of the lead characters? So that'll spin out of one of the reviews that we have that's connected to in the weekly review segment. So that is our show. Before we kick into the club discussion, this weekend, time of recording, it was supposed to be San Diego Comic-Con. And oddly enough, for the first year, all of us, we were going to go. We decided that we're all just going to get tickets. We won the hotel lottery, and we're like, this is our year. And then 2020 happened, and then here we are.
Is that why Damon's not here?
Oh, you know what? Is he the one that told us it was canceled?
No, I think maybe he didn't get the message that it was canceled.
Oh, he's there. He's waiting in line for Hall H. Marvel's panel would normally be on Saturday night. He's probably waiting to get the first teaser trailer for the Eternals. Well, he's not going to get that. So yeah, just to talk a little about San Diego Comic-Con. At this point, not much super huge news has rolled out. A lot of the publishers, Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, everybody else, are doing what we're doing. They're doing sometimes pre-recorded or live stream panels. You can watch all of that through the YouTube channels of those publishers, or to go to the San Diego Comic-Con International YouTube channel, and they've just had so many panels that are up there and available. So many things going on. There's con-exclusive toys that are being presented through a bunch of different outlets. So a bunch of stuff going on at San Diego. I think next week, hopefully this coming week, I'll have some time to go through some of those videos or all of them, and I can kind of maybe bring back some industry news. We'll see. But I did want to address that this would have been San Diego Comic-Con, but turns out everybody just wanted to watch us on this podcast.
And who could blame them?
That will be up later in time. Okay. So let's jump into our club discussion. This is the final issue of Ghostbusters Year 1, issue number 4. This has been an interesting mini-series. It's taken a long time to come out. It pairs perfectly with the year 2020 because it feels like the first year of the Ghostbusters is what we're experiencing in 2020. So it just seems that that's really pairing up quite nice. The only thing, in anticipation of the new Ghostbusters feature film coming to theaters summer 2021-22, we look back at the Boys in Gray's first year on the job, showcasing never-before-seen adventures by the fan favorite and critically acclaimed creative team writer of Eric Burnham, Dan Schoening, and colorist Luis Antonio Delgado. Each of these issues have focused on one of the main 4 Ghostbusters as they're being interviewed for a book. An independent author, Rebecca Morales, is contracted by a small New York publishing house to write an in-depth and official book about the Boys in Gray after the triumph over the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man in Manhattan's Upper West Side. So this last issue is focusing on Egon Spengler and dealing mostly him getting his interview as he's staying in the firehouse in the Ghostbusters headquarters. He's studying the containment unit that it broke that we saw in the movie. And then we get a little story about one of the characters that we were hoping to see, and we finally get to see of this character in this issue. So that is the overall synopsis. Anybody want to dive in with talking about what they liked or disliked or remembered when they read it like 3 weeks ago?
Well, it's fresh in my mind because I just, thinking that I read it 3 weeks ago, realized that I hadn't actually read it. And then Anthony reminded me about it. And I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound familiar. I don't think I read it. So I read it this morning. So yeah, this one actually is the one that focuses the most on the aftermath of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. A lot of the other ones, you get some stories of what happened beforehand, some tales of how they first met, or kind of the first ghost that they went to investigate and things like that. And so this one involves a little bit more of the aftermath. And this one, she actually asks those hard-hitting questions. It's not something where she's necessarily rooting for the Ghostbusters and like trying to make them look good. She actually brings up some critical failures.
With the help of Winston mentioning it too.
Yeah. Asking about this and reminding of something that she didn't know about, but that was like another failure, which is good that he brought it up. Otherwise, we wouldn't get the Slimer story that we had all been hoping for in year one. But we finally do get some more Slimer. Not really a lot. I mean, we kind of see him doing some stuff. It's more about how they went after him and got him than necessarily the stuff that he's doing himself. So it's not like you get a Slimer story. You get
evil Slimer
Buster story about that happens to be Slimer that they're after.
Yeah, we're seeing the test of that containment unit, and with Slimer going back to that story of right after they had gotten him out of the hotel, and basically him breaking out again and getting outside of the firehouse. But before doing that, he grabs some kind of grenade canister?
Yeah, it's I'm
What do
looking
they
to see
call
what it is. Some kind of a grenade that the charge on it, they don't want to risk hitting it because effectively it would be the same as crossing the streams. And then it's a prototype proton grenade.
Yeah, so we see him kind of break loose into the city, and some citizens are reacting as they're trying to catch him again. And it is kind of a story of learning about what they said, something about like not going out on solo missions, that there should always be a couple members while doing these missions.
Right, that's what Egon says. The important thing that they learn from the failure, and that's something that he brings up, is every time that they've had some sort of failure, they learn from it so that they won't have that failure again. In this case, Slimer escaping and then recapturing him teaches them that they should never send anybody out on a solo call. So there should always be more than one Ghostbuster when they go to check something out. They talk about the containment unit getting destroyed and the power going out and things like that, and how it happened. The reason it happened was because it was something that they could not foresee happening. So there was no way to count for this happening. But now that it has happened, they can see it, so the problem will be fixed and it will never happen again. And then, of course, you kind of see a side of what was her name, Rebecca, that you haven't seen before. And I'm not even talking about the side, of her that's possessed. I'm talking about after her being possessed, just the fact that she gets slimed and how she reacts to having been slimed and walks off and whatever. And it kind of leaves you wondering if this project ever even got finished.
Yeah, it definitely kind of, even though it says end, it doesn't leave a question mark or anything like that. But Egon's promising that he's going to find out here
because
about the possession.
Right, because she, they're just talking, and all of a sudden she gets possessed, and she's whoever's possessed her is talking to Egon. It almost seems like it's to Egon, personally, not just to the Ghostbusters, more specifically to Egon, and kind of threatening him. And it's, how does she put it? Like, now is not the time, but it is coming, because it'll be Doom. Dr. Doom, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. One of the things I really liked was right in the beginning when Winston was escorting the reporter to the firehouse, and then they have a police squad car outside as after the whole events of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. They're talking about how people are coming in and looting and trying to grab like little souvenirs and stuff, so they have to station someone out there. And I just like seeing that. You see the outside of the building all kind of burnt up and torn apart, and especially that containment unit and everything too. But I just like that idea of like this giant thing happens to them in the city, and everyone wants to get like a little memento, to a little token of to remember the moment from.
Right, and it's in bad shape, and they talk about how one person like fell through some stairs or almost fell through a floor or something, trying to find a souvenir, because the place has been, there's been an explosion. The damage, there's damage to the structure and everything else. It's mentioned later in the book that this is going to be very costly to them to repair it, which is the only reason that Egon agreed to do this story. He almost seems like he was more against it than Peter, because if you look back at his chapter in this story, he was kind of avoiding talking to this reporter as well.
The one you bought.
Keep those over.
Right. Katie, did you read this one by chance?
Yes, I did. Don't have a ton of scholarly work to say on it. I just thought it was a fun comic book, a good cartoon. I enjoyed it. I got my $3-4 worth out of it. I thought it was cool when the reporter got possessed. That was nice. Maybe that'll be something in the future, but maybe not. Kind of cool that she got to experience the ghostiness and get some really good first-person feedback for her story. But yeah, I had fun with it. No complaints here. It was a good one.
Excellent. Kirby?
Yeah, I like that they showed the aftermath of the thousands of spectral beings destroying their building, and kind of giving the beginning story also in here. And the reporter wasn't all pushy and stuff with the issues, and she was decent about everything. And of course, having Slimer in here made me happy. So it's the evil Slimer, but we'll get to see the good Slimer hopefully. And I don't know, have we heard any more about number 5 or anything beyond this, or is it done for now?
Yeah, I think it was just meant as the initial 4, but another volume, could be down the road if they want to keep going with it. So,
yeah, I mean, they definitely do, have with this possession, they are hinting at something else. Whether or not it becomes Ghostbusters Year 1 Part 2, or it becomes some other Ghostbusters thing, I don't know.
Yeah, and how much time do we remember was between the first and second movie, like story-wise? Was there years in between?
I didn't think it was that far between. I figured maybe a year or 2.
Yeah, it's a little bit, but I really don't know. I don't think they say for sure.
Because Venkman gets married, didn't they get married? But they didn't have no kids.
No.
That's what I'm wondering, if they were to revisit this story, I'm sure there's a lot of ground to cover in between, in between the movies. I'm sure there's a lot of space to work within. So,
yeah, that big floating river of green goo didn't just appear overnight. So I'm sure they could talk about how it built up.
Now, of course, they have a lot more time to work in stories between the second and third movies.
Yeah, there's definitely plenty of time to crank out some more comics. All right. And because of the 30-40 year gap or whatever it is. So.
Well, yeah, there's that too.
All right. Any other final words on this issue or this series as a whole? I think overall it was pretty satisfying and yeah, a good little look. And I like the structure of all of it, and each issue kind of focusing on another one, and had some recognizable stuff, introducing some new material, some stuff that I know that Damon helped with pointing out, like going back to that. With the Casey Kasem news broadcast and stuff, and like all this, like all these fine details that they really, sewed it together quite nice. So I think the creative team put a lot of good effort into it. So
Right, and I had kind of thought about that too as well. Like with this possession at the end of the book, I started thinking, okay, do we know this is something to do with like the next movie or something like that, or obviously it wouldn't have anything to do with the first movie because this is afterwards. But yeah, I kind of had thought about that, and I wonder how many little Easter eggs, I guess, that we might have missed. So I'd almost have to go back and watch the movie and then read through all 4 issues of this just to kind of look for things like that we missed out on.
Yeah, we'll have to check in with Damon too when he's here next time and see if he had anything to add as well, and he may have some of those Easter eggs discovered.
But I will add in here, I like the Ghostbuster movies and everything. I've never really read the comics. So I don't know typically how the comics are, but we talked about first reading this, and you got a feel for the characters, and like I think it kind of captured the characters as we remembered them from the movies and did a good job with that. So I will note, having ended this miniseries now, that I would say that did continue throughout all 4 issues.
Yeah, and I've read a handful of them myself, and they've always just been really fun, and this felt very much like those other ones too. So they seem to have a very collective goal when it comes to like Ghostbuster comics. At least the ones, I haven't read a ton of them, but at least the ones I've read have all felt very similar in tone and both funness and spookiness. So yeah. And that probably says a lot to the editors of these books, if there might be a specific Ghostbuster editor over the years at IDW, right? Yep.
Yes.
That they may have this overall they kind of set the tone for that too. So,
Yeah.
All right, that will do it for Ghostbusters Year 1. That was an excellent club discussion pick. That's a perfect time to talk about this coming Wednesday will be the August catalog for products coming out in October and beyond. And us as a club, we will dive into that one and start to form our club picks for the fall and the winter. Coming out of the shutdown and all that kind of stuff, a lot of things have been delayed, and us trying to figure out where we're all getting comics from and things like that. So I think this will be a perfect time to kind of do a clean slate. We'll still have Batman Adventures that's going on, and then we will have 3 issues of X-Ray Robot that will be continuing in September. But we'll start picking some more Marvel and DC and kind of get back into the swing of thing for new picks. So once those catalogs hit, everyone's encouraged to, I think, pick 3 Marvel suggestions, 3 DC suggestions, 3 indie suggestions, and actually the indie thing will be fine because of the X-Ray Robot, because by that time I think we'll have 1 more month to go. So I guess just Marvel and DC we'll focus on. So all right, that will do it for this segment. We'll be right back for the weekly reviews. I said it sounded like there's going to be a commercial, but there's no commercial.
Yeah, we'll be back after these messages from our sponsor.
All right, everybody run to the bathroom.
Okay, audio stopped, audio saved. All of the behind-the-scenes stuff of running a podcast is super entertaining. Okay.
You need another camera set up so that you can see like all the things that you're doing as you're hitting,
See the
buttons and
keystrokes.
saving and everything. And I guess I would have to do that on my end too, so that I can see my recording light over here for the video part of it. Of course, it's on the same screen that I'm using for a recorder because my camera and everything's all in one, so I can't really do that.
Yeah, we'll just have to. Maybe we'll have. If your son needs something to draw, he can or like animate. Do a cartoon rendition of behind the scenes. So,
Oh, yeah, I don't know if he's drawing anymore. I don't.
well, this is the
His,
perfect
his
reason for
time
him.
is so limited. In fact, the D&D discussion came up. If what's going on with D&D, and I don't even know what's going on with D&D now because I know Katie first said that she was just going to stop doing it because she's with her hydrocephalus. She hasn't really been able to do it for a while. And I know Ethan had been talking about taking a break. So with Katie bowing out for that reason, Ethan said, well, for a while I'll do it. And now David's talking about it just because of a lack of time, because school's starting up and he's got a lot of things going on right now. So he's not sure that he can really have the time to do that and everything else. So I don't even know what's going on with the D&D group. So I guess you'd have to ask Jim, and he's not talking.
Kick him to
Well-
the curb. We'll start a Magic Gathering group.
We
Right.
were talking about going to a different campaign than the one he was last Saturday, so that's the last thing I heard.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, Katie and Ethan were dropping out, and it was going to be a smaller group, so we are going to go back to an older game or older campaign and pick up with the smaller group from there.
Well, that would be good.
Yeah. See, things all change from day to day, and
But yeah,
I get updates, like once a month, so I never know what's going on.
All right, we will jump into the weekly reviews here. We are recording. Welcome to the weekly review section. We're going to go all around the internet and talk about the books that we've been reading, both new and old. The first one I'm talking about here, now that comics are coming back, Marvel has done their spring-summer event into a summer-fall event. This is Empyre issue number 1. Leading into Empyre, there's been Empyre 0, there's been Zero Avengers or Zero Fantastic Four Empyre. There's a bunch of little one-shot things here and there that are all important pieces of the puzzle. But this here is the first issue of the proper 6-issue main series. The Kree and Squirrels have united under a new emperor, and their war fleet is on a collision course for our world. On the moon, the Avengers are ready to strike with the full power of Earth's mightiest heroes. Approaching from outer space, the Fantastic Four are seeking a diplomatic solution. If the two teams can't work together to save the day, things can only get worse. Okay, so a synopsis of everything that's happening here, because this is a Marvel event that is, are these all the variant covers here, David?
I don't know if that's all of them. That's a handful of them. I don't remember how many variants there were. This is 4 of them, though.
So yeah, an overall synopsis of what's going on to kind of catch you up on those 0 issues and things like that. The Kree and the Skrull have been at war for millennia, and that's been the popular story since probably, the 70s in Marvel Comics.
Yeah, for about as long as both of them have been around in comics. So
Yeah.
millennia.
Yep. And but this story is focusing on the fact that they've decided to align and they've joined a team because back in the day, the Kree race were the ones that decided to just up and destroy the Kotati, if that's how you say that plant race. Kotati. Yeah, I think that's right. I've never heard anyone say it out loud, so.
Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, for as long as I've been reading comics, I'm not even that familiar with that race. So.
Yeah, so it's just like a very peaceful plant race that the Kree, from my understanding, just kind of up and decided we want to just rule their land and
like most other races.
Yeah, and so all of that stuff's going on in those Avengers and Fantastic Four issues. we've met two characters. Did you read this by chance, David? Or
I haven't. I do have copies, but I'm behind on them. So I'm actually now I've got 3 issues of it because I don't have any of the offshoots, but I do have 0, 1, and 2 now. So probably read them all together.
That way, when I go through the discussion, I think I'm the only one that read them here.
Well, and then maybe I can join in a little bit by the time you get to 2, because then I should be caught up with.
Yeah, 2 is out at the moment, and 3 is coming out. So, but yeah, this one will come.
Yeah, because it's a weekly release schedule for
them. So yeah, we've met in those 0 issues a child of both the Kree and the Squirrel race. These kids were, I want to say, like engineered to kind of be these warriors. They kind of reminded me of the idea of the Lazarus, with having in that series of having those the Lazari, protectors of the family. These kids, from what I understand, are kind of embedded with basically the history of each of those races, where they just know everything and they're basically being forced to fight each other. So even though the Kree Skrull have ended the war after all this time, there was somebody in one of those one-shot issues that was pitting these 2 kids in an arena-style battle, and everyone was cheering them on because they were kind of continuing, kind of almost making believe that the Kree Skrull were still fighting. And that's when the Fantastic Four had come in and coincidentally had found these kids, saved them, freed them, and they're on their way to bring them to Earth. And that's kind of where they run into this issue here. So if you haven't read that issue, you kind of get a little bit of that in these opening pages. So I think Marvel overall is very good, even though there's tons of tie-ins and spin-offs and miniseries and one-shots. I've read a lot of them, and I've definitely felt that the main series has really told the story. And if you're digging that story, you can just go out and seek more chapters of it. But yeah, I think overall they're pretty good with just kind of, if you miss something, you kind of get a brief coverage of it in a panel or 2 in the main book. So you have the Fantastic Four that are trying to protect these kids. So Sue and Reed are telling Franklin and Valeria to take them to Earth, and they kind of want to let them out of what this oncoming war is going to be because they know that there's trouble ahead. Kids are obviously upset that they thought they're just going to be babysitters now. But you'll see that in a Fantastic Four issue 21 or 22 that came out a week or 2, where you kind of see them bring those kids to Earth and what happens from there. But this issue is focusing on Hulkling, who is the hybrid character, a former Young Avenger who is now basically the peacekeeper. He's the one that kind of brought these races together to kind of end the war. And a lot of the mystery within this issue is talking about whether or not he is being played, if he is just a figurehead, that you have the Super Skrull in this story. You're kind of wondering if he's just basically being used for ulterior motive of one of those races. But the Avengers are getting mixed into this issue because it is an Avengers and Fantastic Four event in itself. And let me see here what other moments I can talk about. And then going back to that Kotati plant race, that plays a very important part in this issue. I won't elaborate on that, even though spoilers are allowed. But there's something while the Fantastic Four are trying to talk, and the Avengers are trying to kind of talk Hulkling out of this and kind of have him step down and say, hey, you're being played. While all that stuff is happening, there's another portion of this story that is kind of happening behind the scenes that kind of surprise all of the people involved, all the heroes rather, with Avengers and the Fantastic Four. So used to saying Avengers and X-Men together. The FF and the Avengers. But yeah, this was a lot of fun, a lot of action, a lot of story. I think it's very pleasing to the longtime readers. To the new time readers, there's a lot going on, but I think there's enough fun stuff too to kind of keep your attention span there, because there's just some fun hijinks with the Avengers, and using Mjolnir and Iron Man tech to try to, when they're going into space and trying to jump into the mission, into the action and everything. So there's a lot of fun that's going on with that current Avengers team as well. But yeah, there's something here that really kicks off this event. It doesn't waste any time, I should say. You kind of get an idea of what these next 5 issues are going to be about, unless they're really playing you here. But it's I'm very excited to read issue 2, which I just got in my hands today. So yeah, overall, I had a lot of fun with it. There's a lot to cover. There's a lot of tie-ins. There's a checklist in the back, preludes and phases. They did cut a lot of that stuff with the pandemic and the shutdown and all that stuff. There was actually supposed to be more than what David's showing you right now in that checklist and on the video feed if you're watching that. But they did cut a lot of that stuff. So there's still a lot of it, but it's crazy to think there's even more that was supposed to be part of this. But yeah, there's some I'm getting based on the creators and the characters, but so I'll maybe chime in with that in later runs. But with Empyre, if I think I'm the only one reading, David might be jumping in as well. This will be something I'll probably check back in on a midway point and maybe a finale. But yeah, I'm digging the start of it. So it felt as overwhelming as some events can feel when comics were coming out on a normal pace where you just kind of go event to event to event. Me being a Marvel guy, I ate it all up anyways, but I can understand the fatigue of it all. With all of the shutdown and comics coming back, I was just back at this event just because it just brought some excitement into a time when there wasn't much.
What's funny is I think we'd actually talked about doing Empyre. At one time, we discussed doing it as a club pick, but we were trying to decide between a couple of things, and Spider-Ham was one of them. And we wanted to do something fun, and so we did Spider-Ham. And because of how things worked out with the pandemic and everything, they're actually not running simultaneously like they would have been initially. So had we known how it was going to, all play out, we could potentially have picked this as a club pick. But things with the different schedules and everything that they've got out now, it didn't work out the same way. And I suspect the fact that you and I are the only ones, and I'm behind, but you and I are the only ones reading it, that maybe it wouldn't have been the best club pick anyway.
Well, I wanted to read it, but I was just going to wait for trade paperbacks to start coming out because I liked a lot of the off branches for it. So I figured instead of just buying tons of individual comics, I'd save a little money.
And part of that, going off of David's discussion there, going into this, there's a lot of confusion on what the events were because we had that incoming, had Marvel 1000. We just had all of these one-shots that just teased all of these things. We had the Outlawed, the young Marvel hero things, which I don't even think is a thing now. Some of it's happening digitally. I lost track on it. So going into it, that was also a factor of just like, wait, what do we start reading first?
Right. Yeah. Because and a lot of that spun out of the same couple of. I don't even remember. They were like one shots now, right?
Like 80-page one shots. Yeah.
Yeah. A couple of these spun out, and it just spun into like 3 or 4 different things. And like you said, yeah, some of them I don't think have really happened. Those outlawed things I think are happening in the individual books, but I don't know if there's like a big crossover like what it seemed like there was going to be. Because in it, it would basically it sounded like it was like, Civil War for the Marvel kids.
Yeah, because there's Civil War Kids Edition.
Yeah. They were, outlawing all, because it's not against the law to be, a bunch of costume vigilantes and stuff like that. That's not it. But when you're underage costume vigilantes, we can't have that.
Yeah, because there was the Ironheart turned into a digital series for the 2 issues. which I got those, but then they were supposed to be Champions, which I'll have to look to see if that came out digitally or not, because they had decided being like, all right, we're putting these digital only or this or that. So that thing ultimately kind of fell apart, but I was getting excited knowing that, because Khan, being a big fan of her, that she was going to be playing a factor in that. And her book, I think there's only been like maybe one new issue since. I'm trying to think if even Miss Marvel has come back since all this yet, but
Yeah, I'm not sure, but yeah, she was going to be involved in that. Miles Morales, Spider-Man, would have been involved in that.
all right. Well, that
So
will
Anthony, before you finish, I have a question. I was at the other comic shop this week, and they were talking about it, and somebody said something about. I read issue 1 or issue 0 actually, and it kind of lays out where everything's going, so I don't have to read the rest. Is that what you got out of it too, or
there's
you know where everything's going to happen?
I mean, it definitely lays a lot of groundwork. Like those 0 issues were pretty important. They did a nice history lesson of kind of what I very briefly summarized in the beginning there. But ultimately, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. Like, I would have to revisit that, but it's hard for me being the diehard Marvel guy, I don't think I would ever read that and just be like, yep, I don't need it because I've got it. But if anything, it caught me up on history on things that I've either have read or haven't read. So it was basically kind of like a good source book in a way. But I don't think it ultimately told you, all right, here's everything that's going on because, yeah, we have 6 issues to go. A big kind of I'll have to see if they kind of alluded to the ending of issue number 1 in here because it kind of threw a curveball. So yeah, ultimately I wouldn't agree with it, but I've read it once and that was like weeks ago. So, and reviewing this all as one chunk is basically where I'm coming at it. So yeah, I would have to look into it again. And all right,
Cool.
so that is Empyre issue number 1. Let's jump over to Kirby for our next pick.
All right. David, watch out. There's someone standing behind you. I checked out the Unbeatable Squirrel Girl. Big squirrels don't cry. With her unique combination of wit, empathy, and squirrel powers, computer science student Doreen Green is all that stands between Earth and total destruction. Well, Doreen plus her friends Tippy Toe, a squirrel, and Nancy, a regular human, so mainly Squirrel Girl. Then what hope does Earth have if Doreen gets hurled back in time and are erased from history? Some hope, hopefully, as Howard the Duck is waiting impatiently for a crossover. And if one animal encounter isn't enough, prepare for Swarm, a buzzkill made of bees, a mole man, a subterranean supervillain looking for love. But you're not here for flowers and kissing. You're all about computer science and superheroics. Get both and more in a showdown with Count Nefaria, the Unbeatable Squirrel Girl. I laughed a lot during this. I cried uncontrollably and sweat twice.
Oh, good cry, bad cry.
And I had squirrels screaming criticism at me and the cat while we tried to tell them some stories from the book. But yes, my wife's boss got me a bottle of Reaper hot sauce called The End. And twice this took me a week to read. But twice while I read it, I had ramen with it, with a few drops of the Reaper hot sauce. And this stuff will make you cry in a heartbeat. But yeah, this was a very fun one, just like the last one I read. I can't remember the name of it, but it was the same style, the medium-sized thick graphic novel version. You get all the fun storylines with all the little diary notes at the bottom of every page to give you extra little fun little things to go. You got the little back and forth texting going on between Squirrel Girl, Tony Stark, and the Hulk pops in. You got Craven, and just tons of people just keep popping into the little online chat. And I'll tell you which comics are collected in this one is Squirrel Girl number 1 through 11 is in here, and you have Howard the Duck number 6 is thrown in between Squirrel Girl number 6 and 7. It helps explain a little bit more about Howard the Duck because I haven't been fully reading the series, just a couple here and there so far on the new series. Apparently he's got a little cat buddy in the new series, and you find out how he got it through this book and what he was before he ended up with Howard and stuff, which is nice. You got a Robo Braid in here. You got Time Travel with Doctor Doom. You got all the different text and stuff. You got lots of Squirrel Girls. You got an old Squirrel Girl. You got Craven, Beast, Howard, Rocket, Weapon 2, which I want to know more about this guy. It's a little squirrel that has the adamantium structure, just like Wolverine, and he's got the little Wolverine claws and stuff. If you put this guy with Squirrel Girl, they're unstoppable. And I really hope these two join up together in future events and do more with it. But yeah, there's a choose your own adventure part in here, a story, which is awesome. So that was one of my favorite things from my childhood. And you got all the little Deadpool cards, which Deadpool made a stack of cards for Squirrel Girl that explains each character. So anytime she's fighting someone she doesn't know, she pulls out her deck of cards out of her pouch and looks up that character and finds out about him. It's like, I like this little thing on the Howard the Duck card Deadpool has. How do you get down off a horse? You don't. You get down off a duck. It cracked me up. What can I say? But yeah, this was a fun story. I do have a little issues still with these writers. I don't know if any of the writers for Squirrel Girls or writers for Thanos and stuff or what. But you have Mole Man having an obsession. I mean, this guy's like an 80-year-old guy, and he's obsessed over Squirrel Girl, which is a girl that just got out of high school. She's just starting college. I mean, come on. Really? And then it goes into the end of it. We get into a little bestiality. I mean, these writers are starting to worry. But Mole Man is a little beast and stuff. It's just... But yeah, this is, again, a very fun story. You got, with all the extras and stuff, it makes it a nice long book. So you don't, it took me the whole week to read, so I don't have a big stack like I had for the past few weeks. But
Yeah, you definitely get your money's worth in that series. And I've got all the single issues, and if they would come out with a hardcover omnibus, I would 100% double down.
I'm really into the mid-sized graphic novels are my favorite. Because just they're small, nice handheld and stuff. And you also get like nightmares in here. You got a whole dream sequence, which brings in Venom. And then I totally get Venom with the squirrels, because when we were sitting out there reading a couple days, we got 6 squirrels out there at least. They were just screaming at us to the point where I got irritated and I went inside to read because I couldn't take the yelling anymore. I was about ready to bring the BB gun out.
That's nuts.
They knew it.
But I could totally see how they could scare Venom right off your skin with the voice, with them squawking away. But yeah, it's definitely worth the money. This is the second volume now that they've had so far like this. So
Cool.
check it out.
Alrighty, let's jump back into the Star Wars galaxy with Katie's pick.
All right. Always happy to be your guide to the galaxy far, far away. And I have another epic collection. It is the Old Republic Volume 3. This volume wraps up the Knights of the Old Republic series, which is much beloved by fans. And I can now say that it is much beloved by me. And it includes a mini-series called Knights of the Old Republic War. And so let's see. In Volume 2, we see the great big Jedi conspiracy wrapped up. Zane is proven innocent. His name is cleared, but he decides he is going to quit being a Padawan. And in Volume 3, we see him and his friends working for the forces of good. So they take on a ring of slavers. They take on some pirates and fight the bad guys. And we also see the war ramping up, not wrapping up, unfortunately, ramping up. And Malik becomes a big character in this. And if you've played Knights of the Old Republic, you'll know why he is important. There was a switcheroo between Roland, one of the side characters, who is a Mandalorian, and Demagol, another Mandalorian, and he's a bad guy. And then we finally see what happens to Jeriel, who is an Arcanian, and we find out why she's been on the run for all these years and who she's hiding from, and get to see her mystery revealed. And in the end, everything wraps up pretty okay, and there's hugs and kisses. And then in the War miniseries, Zane gets drafted. This guy can't get a break. And he ends up fighting for both the Republic and the Mandalorians, and still manages to save the day and call in some favors while paying off some debts. This whole series was written by John Jackson Miller. There's 50 issues in the Knights of the Old Republic main series and 5 in the War miniseries. And I loved it. I finished this book and I held it up to my chest and I gave it a little hug. I see why people love this series, why it's a classic, why people are calling for adaptations and no, don't ever touch it type thing. Obviously, it leads into the Knights of the Old Republic video games, another favorites from this fandom. Yeah, I mostly have good things to say about it. I can't really think of any, literary arguments about it to talk about it more. So does anyone have any questions?
And you've been reading a lot of the Epic collections and everything, and how many volumes total again on this one?
That's right, I have. So there are 3 so far in the Old Republic series. They are breaking it up a little bit. I saw this question where people were saying, well, what are they going to do about Tales of the Jedi? That's Old Republic. And the Tales of the Jedi are getting their own Epic collection series. Those are coming out starting in December. So there are just 3 in the Old Republic series so far. And no word on if there'll be any more from that line, but Star Wars Epic collections are coming out once a quarter. So if there's a story you're looking forward to, check online, check out your shop, and ask when it will be released. Good question.
Now, with all the Knights of the Republic stuff you've been talking about, do they ever explain in there why there's dancing in the video game?
Good question. No, they don't. I just, I sort of figured out that, that's just a factor of every good seedy bar, every good galaxy, like they have to have a class of people whose just life is dancing. Yeah, no explanation, but I just figured it was part of it.
Okay.
But good question.
Alrighty. So yeah, now that we've covered the galaxy, I think it's time to cover a country, one that's been undiscovered.
Undiscovered Country, the first volume trade paperback. You guys have talked about this and covered it pretty well, so I'm not going to go into a lot of details. Just a quick recap. This is excellent. I'm kind of disappointed that I didn't get it originally, but now I'm glad I got it this way because I didn't have to wait month to month to read this whole thing. So it was so much fun, so much good. I hear that they're making, well, I know that they're making movies. Now I hear it's plural, movies. And at least 3 of them. And it's like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for that now. But this is a story of the United States sealed themselves off from the rest of the world. They basically put up big walls. The rest of the world kept going its own way. Political alliances shifted and new organizations came out. And basically there are 2 powers. There's the Europe and Africa together, and then the Asia together, and then a bunch of small countries. All of them wondering what's going on inside the United States. In the meantime, there's a virus that's affecting most of the world, and some people get a message from inside the United States saying, come here, we have a cure. Since nobody's been allowed inside the United States for 30 years, they don't know what to expect. They put a party together and send them in, and inside the United States, it's a mess. It is a post-apocalyptic evolutionary nightmare. There's weird fish that people are riding and pulling vehicles. It's a psychedelic nightmare of colors. There's weird megalomaniacs who are ruling different regions of the country, and there's this prophetic vision or message of walking the spiral to get to the center of the country to find the secrets that will reveal everything. And it's like, and amidst that, there's treachery and family drama and the political drama on the outside and everything going on. I couldn't read it fast enough. So I don't know where this book is at the regular series.
Issue 6 had just come out. I think we're waiting on 7. This is the first 5?
I thought it was the
This
first
is
six.
first 6,
Yeah.
I believe. I have to look. I think the last one
Now,
was chapter
did that
6.
one have all the extras like the individual comics had? All the
Great.
extra
I don't know what it was
stuff?
all in them. There's like at the end of each chapter, there's a page of quotes by people.
Okay.
I don't
Yeah,
think
already
showed like maps.
maps and charts and timelines.
No.
Okay, that's all.
There is a couple pages called Origins where Snyder and Soule talk about where they came up with the idea. But
Okay.
all the extras. But there is like all the variant covers are shown in the back.
All right.
So yeah, it looks like they. I know there was another series that did that really rewarded the single issue people for getting some of that back matter content. I could see them putting it in some kind of hardcover collection down the road, but
Yeah, you can't ask for too much for $10 for six issues. That's a pretty good deal. So.
yeah, and for that first image
It
first.
was the first 6.
Okay, so yeah, now I'm just checking. Okay, yep. So there has been 6 issues, and the 7th I think comes out. Was normally scheduled for the end of July. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not, but yeah. So actually, you would be caught up at the moment.
So I'm caught up to you guys now. So
Yeah, I
I
think
know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think the pandemic kind of helped line both of them up rather than having like a 2 or 3 month gap in there. So yeah, you would be caught up if you read volume 1. So.
And like I said, I don't want to spoil it, and since it's already been covered pretty much by everybody else, that's where I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to go into too much detail on that.
Okay, sounds good. The next title I am going to be talking about here, this I was very excited to get. Hopefully the screen, I'm just going to go back to my view here. Hopefully there's enough bandwidth to show off Wonder Woman, Spirit of Truth, this giant hardcover as you can see here, or if I if I hold it in the right spot. Do I look like Diana, Princess of Themyscira?
Almost exactly.
Okay, good. That's why you subscribe to the video as well as the audio. Wonder Woman, Spirit of Truth finds the Amazon princess in a moment of self-doubt. Despite her pristine global reputation and iconic stature, she struggles to discover the truth behind who she is and what she represents. She always promoted a message of peace, love, and understanding, but now she's wondering about her ultimate mission in life. This is from writer Paul Dini, as well as artist, illustrator, painter Alex Ross. This here was offered as under a 50% off trade deal. I didn't really know what it was. Apparently it is a story from, I think, the early 2000s that was just recently maybe reproduced in this giant hardcover presentation. I think there are other character spotlights presented in this type of format. What's really cool, I didn't know what to expect. Like, is this a comic book? Is this an art book? What the heck are we getting? And it's almost kind of both. It follows some of the normal comic structures. You see, some panel layouts and things like that. I don't think there's a single word balloon in here. Everything is presented in like storybook text in a way. Here is just a gorgeous splash page. This is Alex Ross getting to do exactly what Alex Ross does. Getting to present it in this format really shows off his work rather than scrunching it down into tiny little panels. This is just like, you could just get this book and just stare at it and not even realize that there are words in it. It's kind of like an overall like summary of what Wonder Woman represents and who she is. So it covers a little bit of her origin. It's dealing with her. It's kind of told in a way that's not really set in a certain time period. So it feels very timeless in that sense. So it's not dated no matter when you get this. It's not current, it's not old timey. You don't get any really idea of when this takes place. But my gosh, this big format is just worth it alone for the presentation of this art. But yeah, if nobody has ever read Wonder Woman before, this is definitely a great short story to dive into. I'm just kind of going through for video watchers here of just splash pages upon splash pages. So yeah, this is really just capturing what Wonder Woman truly is at heart. You do see slight cameos from other DC characters, not too much. It doesn't rely on a greater story than that. I won't share who's involved in this because I didn't think they were going to be in here. So that was just a fun little bit of it. But it's just kind of like an overall just summary of everything that she fights for and stands for. And there isn't some overarching villain that's brought in here. So you're not dealing with a lot of mystical or magic stuff. It's actually just dealing with a lot of just real world threats and villains and issues and stuff. And here's another gorgeous piece here that I'm showing off. So yeah, it was an easy read in that sense. But I just found myself staring at this, and definitely will benefit going back and just showing it off. And here's a classic. Once I got to the end of it, I'm like, okay, I've seen this image before of Diana here, kind of kneeling in the grass, and once again, this was something that was presented almost 20 years ago. But
looked like Betty Boop.
yeah, boop boop beep boop. But yeah, then there's a little behind the scenes, so you kind of see the breakdown of Alex Ross just kind of planning out with his art style here. So yeah, it has some cool stuff there, some story behind the scenes too, just kind of talking about some inspirations. But dang, this was a beautiful piece. It's just worth every penny. Absolutely love this. It normally retails, at $18. I mean, it's a very short, thin book, but the hardcoverness and the giant presentation of the art, I think it's well worth that. And yeah, so definitely an awesome book. Check it out. And there are other character spotlights. I don't think the creative team of Paul Dini and Alex Ross do the other ones. I cannot say that for certain, but I think there was kind of a theme of these kind of one-shot mini graphic novel character spotlights. So this was awesome, and I can't wait to properly take this picture and post it as a new profile picture or something here with Wonder Woman's head on this very masculine Silver Surfer shirt body. So all right, and since there's no disagreement from the audience, I'm going to assume that was fact. So here, that will conclude the review on Wonder Woman, Spirit of Truth. Next up, let's jump on over to, we have Gideon Falls, number 23 with Jim.
All right. I haven't talked about this one for a little while. Actually, the last issue they started a new story arc, and this one seems to be focused on pretty much just on Father Fred, and he has gone from after the disappearance, the implosion of the Black Barn. He's been transported into a new version, a very, very cyberpunk version of Gideon Falls. And he's wandering the streets trying to figure out where he is and what's going on. And he's like, he befriends a street prostitute who tries to help him, and he tries to talk information from her. And he goes to a church, and the church is charging him to get in, so he goes and sells his blood, and he finds out that they could offer him thousands and thousands of dollars for his blood because he's completely unmodified. He's pure. And he ends up taking, I think it was $30 because that's all he needed to get into the church. And he gets into the church and he finds out it's not a church. It's basically a whorehouse temple kind of thing, you know, where you pick what you want and you get it.
I've made that mistake so many times.
Every time you go to town, right?
Yep. Every other time.
And yeah, and this just continues to be a great series. The art just really fit with the whole theme of this city. The cyberpunkness just fits with the art style so well.
Yeah, Andrea Sorrentino, correct?
What?
Andrea Sorrentino.
Yeah, yep. The only thing is, by the end of the series, or the end of the book, they seem to have left that cyberpunk version of Gideon Falls, and they go more to a steampunk version. And we see this at the very end.
Yeah, this series is like, every issue I read, I still don't know what the series is. Like, it just keeps you guessing and keeps turning, and it's just wild. So
we thought we knew what was going on with the Black Barn and Norton, and then the Black Barn disappeared, but the series kept going. So
yeah, it's a pretty trippy book. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, Andrea Sorrentino, Jeff Lemire, and Dale Stewart are the creative team on this, and this is Gideon Falls from Image.
Cool. All right. The next one, actually, I was hoping Damon was going to be here for this one because he might have some information. But maybe it's good that he's not here because maybe it'll serve as a spoiler. He was talking about he's going through the Invincible comics. I think he had talked about that a while back, the Robert Kirkman series. Well, I had just gotten Oblivion Song issue number 25 in. Just came out. When it showed up in the mail, Midtown will bag their books backwards so that when you can scan them in with the barcode. So with some of these indie books, the barcodes are on the back. So I opened up my package and I saw a comic called Science Dog. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm like,
What is a Science Dog?
I'm like, I didn't order something. What is this? And I saw an image and it says 25 up in the corner. I'm like, the 25th issue of Science. I'm like, Robert Kirkman. I'm like, is this another surprise comic from Robert Kirkman? And then once I took it out of the bag, because I'm like, this is a thick book. I'm like, $5. I'm like, I didn't buy this. And then I realized on the flip side is Oblivion Song number 25. So you get an oversized issue of Oblivion Song, which I'm not reviewing in this episode here. And then there's like a backup story in there. But then on the flip side, you get a issue of Science Dog. So I'm reading this, and this is done by writer-creator Robert Kirkman, and Corey Walker is the art. Dave McCaig is the colorist, and Russ Wooten, who I think has worked with Daniel Warren Johnson and his stuff as the letterer. So it's a story about, you got these two scientists who are working, you know, they're the kind of people in the chair, this man and a woman, and they're just kind of going back and forth, and they're talking to this Science Dog who is apparently working on these like satellite missions. He's out in space and there's a lot of danger going on, and they keep calling him Science, and apparently, yeah, he's just known as, he's like, please just call me Science, because they'll call him Science Dog. And but you got these characters that they're all kind of on this own separate mission, and then you kind of get this kind of award ceremony. Science Dog was successful on whatever mission he was doing, so he's being greeted, I think, maybe by the president. But you have a scene here where Science Dog here, a very muscular dog. One funny thing, after he gets his award and thanks, they show him sleeping at night, and in his own bed, he's sleeping on the end of the bed. So I thought that was kind of funny, of this humanoid dog science guy here, and I thought that was just kind of a funny little thing. And it wasn't presented in a comedic form, it was just pretty hilarious just seeing that. But yeah, ultimately, this story here, man, there's like 40 comics in here, because then it goes into the Firepower preview prelude. Like Robert Kirkman's creating just like a million different comics, and
Yeah, he's going way out of hand. It's
I
like,
can't keep track of everything, because there's Science Dog, Oblivion Song, an Oblivion Song backup, and Firepower are all included in this $5 flip book of a comic here. But yeah, so I'm reading this, I'm like, dang, I'm like, what? I'm like, it says to be continued. But I'm just like, well, that was a lot of fun. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, how come nobody's talking about Science Dog? I didn't hear anybody talk about it like they're talking about Walking Dead finale and Die 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 and Negan Lives or whatever. So I'm just like, what is going on here? So I did a little research, and everybody's been talking about Science Dog for years, because apparently he spins out of the Invincible comics, which I have yet to read. And from what my understanding and very light research, that's what I was hoping Damon would maybe be here to chime in if he read that far. Science Dog is apparently a character that exists as fiction, maybe in the Invincible world, that they've told some separate tales as a little bonus. So he's had a couple, like an issue one shot or two. So from my understanding, this is a brand new story, and I'm all in on Science Dog. I mean, if I can definitely read Science Dog without, hunkering down and committing to the long, I think there's 140 issues of Invincible out there, but Science Dog is amazing. It's fun. It's ridiculous. I just like how simple the name is. And I was very into it. So
it's my type of comic, but yeah, like you said, Robert Kirkman is just pumping out comic after comic lately.
Yeah, and I do like his way of business of surprising people with comics. In a world where we're supposed to know like 3 months in advance of everything, and by the time it comes out, maybe the steam has really left the engine and we're ready on to the next thing. And I just like the way he's approaching everything, where it's just, I bought this oversized issue of Oblivion Song, which I love that series, but then I got all of these bonus comics, but then something called Science Dog that I'm already all in. All paws are in on Science Dog. One cool factoid when doing my Science Dog research is that going back to the Walking Dead comic and the television show, the character of Cowl in both iterations has had a Science Dog logo T-shirt. You see the logo. I'm going to see it. I think I saved that image recently here, because I was talking. Oh yeah, here it is. So yeah, this was reported like years ago already. I'll turn the brightness down so it shows up better for our video watchers here. So yeah, here is Cowl in the comic with this paw, and it's got like that, a science type logo, like an atom, whatever. I'm sure there's an official term for it. I'm not a science guy or a science dog. And then there's Cowl, who is wearing it. Young Chandler Riggs there has that logo that he's been in both. I don't know if it was just for an episode or an issue, but Science Dog was like a little Easter egg on Cowl's shirt for years, and I first heard about Science Dog right now in 2020. So
Yeah, I never heard of it before.
Yeah, and I know in the TV show too, he was reading Invincible comics.
oh, okay,
But,
yeah.
but yeah, I no idea what Science Dog was. So it is pretty interesting that that's early, pretty early Carl in the TV show as well too. So Science Dog is something that's at least been in someone's mind for quite a while now.
Yeah, and
I have a feeling a lot of these comics he had written a long time ago, and they're just all coming to fruition now.
and there are some stuff like he's done it with Oblivion Song, Firepower, and Die Die Die, where he basically would have a year or more ahead of time before anybody would ever know about it, and then he would release it. That way, there would never be such a big delay. They were always going to be ahead of schedule. Midtown, well, they have a wish list. I'll have to add it to the wish list or just go to eBay. But yeah, there's a Science Dog special number 1 and number 2. That was from, that was 10 years ago already. Oh, there's a Science Dog women's T-shirt on Midtown. That's also wish listed, but you can buy the T-shirt out there somewhere. So, the T-shirt's brand new. That's coming out in like next week or two. Okay, I'm all in. I want a Science Dog T-shirt. So,
Well, clearly it's nothing new.
yeah.
Science Dog the shit out of this.
Ah. So yeah, Science Dog. What more can I say? All right, that will conclude my weekly reviews. We will have one more comic adjacent thing, and then another special review right after that, so I don't forget. So, Jim, what's the next thing on the plate here?
This is Sandman, Neil Gaiman's The Sandman, the Audible original dramatic reading that was done. It was just released last week, and I had to wait a couple of days until my Audible account regenerated, and I got it a credit to use because I wasn't going to pay outright because it is a $35 Audible book, but it is a dramatic reading of the first 3 volumes of the Sandman series, and it is so good. It is done by Neil Gaiman is the narrator, so any part that's not done by a character is read by Neil Gaiman, and it sets the tone exactly as a comic does. There is excellent music, excellent sound effects, so you get completely immersed in the story. The characters, James McAvoy is Dream, Morpheus, the main character of at least the first arc. Death is played by Kat Dennings, and then everybody that else that has any major role is just into. I can't think of the actor's name off the top of my head, but he played the devil guy in Good Omens, the TV show that Amazon did.
That I didn't see.
He's a British
Benedict
actor.
Cumberbatch?
No,
Shelley's.
David
Shelley.
Tennant?
that could be.
Okay.
I'd have to look it up, but yeah, he
What
just
series
does a good
was
job
that?
in here.
Judy
What was
Garland.
it?
What series?
It was called Good Omens.
Good Omens. You know who played that? Michael Sheen.
That actually sounds right. I'd have to pull up the cast list again, but
He was also in Twilight.
You are correct. Michael Sheen is in Sandman. So,
it's a huge character list or a huge cast list, because
yeah.
every single voice has got a different actor. It's not like some of these where one actor will read multiple roles and just kind of alter their voice a little bit. No,
Nice.
they've gone all out. This is a full scale production, and Rodney, I saw it myself, but Rodney had plagued me when he saw it, because so but I replied to him after I started listening to it. Why is this not already a movie? The way they've done this audiobook production is so immersive that the only thing that's got to be holding it back is that it's going to have to be an R rating because of the content. You can't delete the content and still keep the story. And if the studios are just holding it back because of that. Also, once you get into the dreaming realm, there's going to be a lot of CGI, but that should not be, that's just time. That's not necessarily any more money than an actor is.
Yeah, you could just do
building
that.
a real production. So this is, and apparently I talked to Anthony the other day that it's been in development for many years, but had off and on problems. So
Yeah, I know Joseph Gordon-Levitt at one point was trying to get it off the ground, but I mean, much like Preacher and things like that have just been through so many development stages and things, and with something like this, I think the audiobook will definitely help its case a little more, but also I think the longer it takes to get it, maybe the better the version will get when it just finally comes together eventually. I think it'll end up being better for the fans once, it's kind of like a video game getting delayed. They don't, they delay it to make it better, and that might be an issue with the Sandman movie too. So
I know for myself, I have only read the first volume. And then because it's always there and it's like something that I can always go to, I never felt the need to push it ahead and read it because I came to it late. And because there is so much, once I start going into it full scale, I'm going to want to go all the way. And that's a pretty big investment then.
Yeah.
Off the top. So, but to get 3 of them all at once like this was nice. And then, if you're an Audible subscriber, to pick it up for one of your credit instead of having to buy it outright is also a good deal. And if any of you are not an Audible subscriber and would like to listen to it, Audible always gives the new subscribers the first book free. So let me know and I will send you an invitation to that and you can listen to it yourself. So
yeah, I might be interested. I've done very few of that. I mostly listen to like podcasts and stuff, but this I think is something that I would check out. So
all right, yeah, and I think I need to send it to your email. So if you would hit me with your email, I will.
Yeah, I don't have email. I've never done email before, so
Okay.
I'll make one.
Google, it's free.
Google email. My email will be Jim the Sandman at
Okay.
Google hotmail.yahoo.net.
Sure, that'll work.
Okay. So send it there. I'll get it somehow. Cool. All right. Yeah, so that, with him bringing up that Audible book, that has inspired what we will get to in the letters page. But before that, we have a very special review from Kirby here. He's holding a finger.
Before I get to that review,
Uh-oh.
since Jim brought up an audiobook, I happened to come across something today at a book sale that this is my new obsession. I know I talked about the Planet of the Apes one back a while back, but the old little books that have the records in the back.
Ah.
Well, I came across the last Gremlin. It's volume 5, story 5. Well, I didn't know this. I should have known it. We've had these for a while, but Shelly found these for me today. But I got story 1 in book 2 of The Gift of the Mogwai and Gizmo and the Gremlins. So now I just got to find 3 and 4 to complete my collection. But yeah, this is my new obsession, is these little records. I just keep finding them at the weirdest spaces and grabbing them. But yeah.
So the record is actually somebody reading the story?
Yeah. Basically, you can play the record while you read the book, and someone reads it for you. So, yeah. All right. So I went back to Jeff's on Main, the alcohol shop, and I picked up. I don't know really how to
get the name right.
Yeah, I got the name right this time. I don't know how to say this. It's like frack COVID or Favik COVID but they had this sitting at the front counter.
Yeah, it's right in front of the counter. I was actually there yesterday too, and I was like, hey,
So I bought a 6-pack of this. It's 4% Pilsner. It's actually pretty good. I really like the taste of this. So it's like, it's even got a little star down at the bottom. Also Hoarders. It's like, but yeah, it's ale, 12 full ounce ale, Asylum plus it's made out of Madison, Wisconsin. So, but yeah, that was actually pretty good tasting, light colored beer. It's not a dark beer, so.
So there's a part of Madison, Wisconsin in every can.
Yep.
Made out of Madison, Wisconsin.
Yeah. Well, it might have came from an asylum in Madison, Wisconsin, because it says Ale Asylums. But yeah.
It's
So
funny. It's just like a sticker they put on.
Another little review is a sticker right over the can.
Yeah, it's like just a.
Oh yeah,
can,
so it's
and
a
then
blank
they
can that they just put a sticker on instead of an actual can that was printed up. So.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't look that closely. We saw them when we were on our way out the door. So.
Yeah, I was gonna skip it, but I'm like, yeah, I gotta check it out.
and incidentally, Tammy referred to it as Mike's on Main yesterday, so you're not alone.
We're gonna give it all kinds of names.
Nobody really knows who owns
But
it.
it's obviously working because those 2 weeks we talked about, the one that was done by
Tim Seeley.
Yeah, Tim Seeley, all of a sudden they had a stack of it right at the front counter. So I think they owe us a little kickback for all the reviews they're getting. So
Well,
I'm trying to push.
Get them as a sponsor. Let's line them up.
Yeah.
Eventually it'll be the Drunken Comic podcast.
Alrighty.
Well, the next time there's a hiatus on the comics, we'll just sit around and talk about
Beer reviews.
alcoholic beverages.
All right. And then actually, I just checked my phone. I got breaking news. There are 2 issues, 1 and 2, of Science Dog in my shopping cart. So,
Cool.
breaking news.
And they will be in my cart later on this afternoon.
Alrighty. So,
Science done doggy style.
Gotta get a hold of Bill Nye.
that will complete the segment. Okay. Save. All right. Jumping back in, we are recording. All right. Okay. Welcome to the letters page. Welcome to the letters page, everybody. This week's question we are going to be asking everybody here is, if you could adapt a comic series or a story arc into an audiobook, what would it be and who would voice a few of the lead characters? I'll kick it off to kind of give an example if anyone's still thinking of some answers. A comic story that I really like, that I bought multiple times in multiple formats, is simply the Galactus Trilogy, issues 48 through 50 of the original Fantastic Four Volume 1 run from the 60s. That is something that I think the Marvel has done some Stitcher audio. They did the Wolverine, which I think they did into a comic adaptation. There is some Galactus-related one that I think has come out or that is coming out. I haven't subscribed to any of those, so I haven't listened to them, but I don't think it is the Galactus trilogies specifically. So I'm going to choose the Galactus Trilogy, and as a cast, I'm going to use the voice cast for Reed and Sue will be Freddie Prinze Jr. and Sarah Michelle Gellar will be playing our Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Woman, and cast as Ben Grimm the Thing will be that voice of David Harbour. You may know him from Stranger Things as well as the recent Hellboy movie and in the upcoming Black Widow movie. And then I was trying to think of a Johnny Storm. If I was thinking of a movie Johnny Storm, I keep thinking like a Zac Efron type would be pretty good in there, but I'm going to go with Dave Franco who is going to be voicing my Johnny Storm in this Audible translation. And then, so that rounds out the Fantastic Four, but there's 2 other characters in the Galactus trilogy that I was thinking of. The voice of Galactus, I am casting an audiobook veteran at this point, James Marsters, who played Spike on Buffy and Angel, as well as Brainiac over on Smallville. He's done a lot of audiobooks, and I think I'm going to give him some work here as Galactus. But then who is going to be voicing my Silver Surfer? I'm keeping it in the Whedon family and in the Marvel family at the same point. Chiwetel Ejiofor, who was in Serenity as the operative, and you could see him as Mordo in the Doctor Strange movie. So yeah, I'm casting him as the voice of Silver Surfer. So yeah, that's my Galactus trilogy done in an Audible fashion. And I did forget to cast actually the giant space baby, the Watcher. So basically just any baby, any newborn baby in any hospital that wants a role will be cast as the giant space baby. So yeah, that is my answer. David, do you have an answer?
Well, I don't have a specific book, but I think pretty much any comic book done as an audio book, I think you probably couldn't go wrong by quite possibly having all the parts played by, say, who would be probably Bill Hader and Mark Hamill. Between the 2 of them, just doing every voice in every comic.
Yeah.
I could see that working. They could just do a series of audio comics.
I would buy every one of those if those 2 were attached. So, all right, yeah. So it's Bill Hader and Mark Hamill present the entire comic book collection ever, starting from Action Comics #1 up until Science Dog. So.
Right, kind of just like the history of comics, just starting going all through the years.
All right, I'm subscribed. Kirby.
Okay, I'm going to answer for me and Damon. I'm going to say I want to see the new Howard the Duck series done. And for Howard the Duck, I'd like John Lithgow to do the voice.
Oh, I love that.
For the RoboCat, I want Jeff Bridges to do the voice. The dude. And for his tattooing friend, Tara, she's black-haired, but I still want Leah Thompson to do the voice for it. So, eventually they're still going to make out. But yeah, that's my pick.
Man, I dig that John Lithgow thing.
He's just awesome. I haven't seen him in the longest time. I want him back.
I might have to borrow him for the Watcher.
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with child labor laws and all that stuff, so I might just have to borrow John Lithgow. So, all right, cool. Katie.
Okay, I love this question. There are so many comics I would love to see adapted. I think I'm going to go with Saga today from Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. So many characters in this, so we just be bringing people in and out. For Alana, I'm going to go with Gina Torres. I don't know if she does a ton of voice work. I just think she's really cool, and I love the characters she plays. Yes. And then for Marco, I'm going to go with Matthew Mercer. For Prince Robot, I want to be voiced by Sam Witwer. And for Hazel, like when she is a little kid, I want it to be Millie Bobby Brown. And then for Hazel as like an older narrator, I'm going with Ashley Eckstein. And then if there's a male narrator, I want one of my favorite audiobook readers, Mark Thompson, to do the voice. And then we'll just be bringing in all kinds of names as the series goes along. Oh, and I forgot one more. Goose of House Goose. How can I forget my favorite little seal? I want to be voiced by Andy Serkis. So.
All right. Brian K. Vaughan is not on Twitter, but I am tweeting him right now because this needs to happen.
Okay. I'm not on Twitter either. Is he on Instagram? Maybe we can link up there.
I don't think he has any social media. I'm just gonna have to start going through his friends. I'm gonna tweet everyone I've ever come in contact with. And then
I support that.
I'll cross-test it with like coronavirus. I can just kill 2 stones at once. So.
Oh, that's a good idea. The CDC would appreciate that. Nice. All right, let's make it happen.
I
I'm
can
getting
just
some
hear
help
the
from
sales
Slimy.
of audiobooks going just skyrocketing right now.
I mean, really, they should. I'm excited. I can't wait to try this Sandman audiobook. That looks good.
Yeah, that was a strong lineup there. Jim.
I picked a Batman graphic novel, The Long Halloween.
Ooh.
This is going to have a lot of narration by Batman, and of course, for the Batman voice, my favorite Batman actor of all time, Kevin Conroy.
Thought
And
we were all
then-
going to say George Clooney, but
Nope. And for the other character that would need a lot of a good voice would be the Calendar Man. And I think I'm going to go with Taliesin Jaffe. He's got a character he does that is kind of like a Sid Vicious British punk type character, but he also does that, and he drops into a lower register and more of a Boston accent than a British accent. He does that one, as well. So you take that voice he does and do it for Calendar Man, kind of like a South Boston punk. I think that would work good for that character. But the rest of them, there's, it covers all the Batman villains, and they've all been done really well, but in animation. So
yeah,
any one of those actors could refill that role.
that would definitely be a hit. Cool. I am going to do one other cast change because I was inspired. Instead of David Harbour, he's got enough work. Instead of him as Ben Grimm the Thing, I'm thinking Gilbert Gottfried. Oh, it's collaborate time. And I just wanted to say that. So, all right. So that will conclude our letters page. And I think that will conclude our program for this evening as I buy time to get to the outro in my notes. So next week for the club discussion, we will cover Batman Adventures #2. We've exhausted all of the other club picks at the moment, so Batman Adventures will take us through for a little while up until September with X-Ray Robot. But starting next week, once again, we will get the catalog from August for the October items, and we will start kind of throwing out some suggestions on our Facebook private group, club group there, and start figuring out what we want to read from Marvel and DC as a club pick. Once you get your hands on those catalogs or check them out, however you check those out, start thinking some suggestions, and I'll start a thread for it then, and we'll go from there. So until then, though, we have to end the show in order to do other shows in the future. So this whole time, I've been faster than 10 fast men.
I've been America's favorite voice actor.
I've been Woodchuck Chick.
I am executive producer of the Saga audiobook.
I'm Kite Man, damn it.
To be continued.